Enjoy the show. Play on Perjanger.
Welcome one and all to another Mattcast. How are you, gang? You look good. You look good. You're feeling good. And we're here again for another show. Just some updates here. We'll take care of it in the front half here where I usually BS and let you guys know what's going on. You know what? Before I even get comfy, it's going to be a little bit longer of a cast. Not a short one this week. But we have a... make sure I drop down the box for this one, but we have a little hole in the wall right now because we had a bit of a problem that happened here in the House of Perjangers. The old cast iron waste drain that was long should have been replaced. It gave out and it was leaking some water, so we needed somebody to call in a pinch. We gave a call over to S&S over there on Edgemont, but they didn't do it. So they let us know their choice, and I got to tell you guys, these guys are my choice as well. DNB, not Dave Matthews Band. The Dave Matthews Band will not help you with your plumbing issue. DNB, those guys talked to Dave over there, set us up right, sent his team out here, a bunch of not only knowledgeable guys in their field, but as you can see, they didn't leave like a big mess, short little stuff for something that, you know, Big Brother and myself could take care of and will take care of. It'll be patched up before the next Mattcast, but I had to point it out, man, because we got brand new pipes. You can see it right there, literally. You don't get to see it in I'll get there eventually. There we go. You don't get to see it in Lugnutz, and I usually cover it up in Mattcast, and I'll cover it up again. There you go. But DNB, those guys, man, really set us up. They were really nice and friendly. I told them all about eventually about Mattcast. I glazed over this one because most people, they like the cars, Lugnutz, or they like the silliness of Silly Little Podcast, which had its epic return. Michael is abducted by aliens, and we'll get into that in our first comic. But outside of that, Vinny Green stepped up with the silliness. We'll see what other kind of, weird wackiness we can get into with Vinny there. But we had Silly Little Podcast I told them about Lugnutz. They loved it. So they're great guys over there. So before we get into the fun and games of what I've been watching, what I've been doing, one thing I did was the first lady of Perjangers, the Phoenix herself, Jillian, my bride-to-be, and myself decided to have a fun night where kids could be kids. And that's what we did for our joint Bachelorette party. We decided we want to have a place where all of us adults, because we're all adults now, we can all get together and just have a nice night going out being kids being kids. So especially I see my analytics. I know my market here. If you're in the mood for just having a fun night, just like you used to, consider Dave & Buster's. Now there's a new branch out there in KOP, and I got to tell you, we went there. The wait staff was phenomenal. Made sure there was always a drink in my hand, and even though I don't drink alcohol anymore, I had a cup like this filled with fresh, crisp Diet Coke all night during my gaming session. They had this really awesome dartboard bar. They had dartboard and skee ball. So we went with the darts, and everybody, we all got around the dartboard, not really knowing. There's a bunch of little games that you could pick that were fun little overlays for the dartboard to make it fun and engaging for everybody. So I never thought I'd really be into darts or get into darts like that, but so awesome just having that time before we really got into the fun. Of course, myself being a lug nut, had to find a racing game first. Big Brother and myself, we did that. And, you can also enjoy the Lugnutz Ring Road Run. We are putting out those videos. I believe there's a couple out there. We're going through the Pegasus that were immediately in his garage. There's a lot more cars, believe me. Before up until the launch of Grand Theft Auto here at Perjangers, we're going to have some Grand Theft Auto, some of our favorite Grand Theft Auto cars that Big Brother has been driving since the last one came out. He has a good eye for the really nice cars out there in GTA, so he's giving it a lap around the ring road, and the laps will get better. They will get better. There are a couple crashes and stuff here and there, which I'm going to, he already told me I have to, but I'm going to compile, after I release a good couple, I'm going to compile a good, fun crash compilation, and I'll just focus on the crashes, and I'll have a good short out there for that as well. But yeah, man, that's what we were doing over there over at Dave & Buster's, man. The staff, amazingly fun night. I mean, with $25 after the dart game, I had a whole night of gaming for $25. Plenty of chips to just sat there. I went through, I think there was an Asphalt Legends game. I went through that. I also went on, it was like one of the shooters. I'm a big shooter fan, big brother myself, obviously very big shooter fan. So I went through one of the shooters there, and I forget the name of it, but I got third in the overall because it was Big Brother and then my friend Teddy. Teddy Schools, you'll see on the he was on the Perjangers and Wallhangers Media Network. I've podcasted with him many times. Teddy partnered with me at the end of the end of my run there, but you know, we did good, man. I got third on that video game overall. I'd be interested when I go back, because I will go back, if I'm still third. You know, I definitely want to check that leaderboard and see if anybody trumped me there. But at the KOP, definitely try. It was the one with the, forget the name of it, but it had the nice little assault rifle, and there were points when you had to put it back into its station so you could use, like, Gatling guns and stuff in there. They had, like, maybe, like, 8 different maps you played 2 times. But I got all the way through it just in that one time, one little session of gaming. It was really fun, and everybody had a blast. Even the adults who didn't want to game. They all had a nice little section. They could just sit, chill, talk, not too loud. Perfect little environment for whatever kind of, you know, thing. We did a joint Bachelorette party, and it was an absolute blast. So highly recommend the new Dave & Buster's out there at KOP. So if you haven't gone in a long time like myself, if you haven't been there ever, you know, you'll really enjoy it, man. It's just like an old, you know, it's just like the old arcades of our, you know, of our past and our history, but with a new tech flair, because just with the card that you get, it keeps track of your tickets. If you're like a skee ball or one of those kind of gamers, keeps track of your tickets. It keeps track of your, you know, the money and points you have on there, obviously, but also my friend Teddy was also using an app. So there's all that technology in there to really make sure you have. Are you into tech? Cool, we got this stuff. If not, hey, here's a card. You could do absolutely anything to your heart's content. Just tap it. So it's a really nice setup, man. I was really impressed. I haven't been to Dave & Buster's in a while. I wondered how they handled that technological jump, you know, because it's been that long since I've been there. Fantastic place that I had to couple businesses that I really wanted to plug there because they did really, really good jobs and did just above and beyond exceptional service and customer service, which, you know, coming from the automotive industry myself, I really do appreciate really good customer service. So you know that these guys will get you taken care of. Quick, what have I been watching? The new season of anime are out, and Clevitus is back. That one's great. I just watched, before this podcast even went out, the Skeleton Knight in Another World. I'm a big isekai guy, so the Skeleton Knight, you know, they're just starting up in their season, so they're doing nice. Another one that's about 5 episodes in is The Villager at level 999. Interesting premise, you know, just like Clevitus, anime about a demon god just cruising the world, doing a OP character, doing whatever they want. And it's an interesting little world there. So if you haven't gotten into Clevitus, Villager at 999, those are 2 good ones. Watch on Exiled Knight, Exiled Heavy Knight. And then I've got, of course, Demons of Shout Around is still going on. Black Torch. You know, that time I got reincarnated as a slime. There are so many good shows if you're an anime fan on Crunchyroll, and there is some bleed through transfer, especially like on Netflix. I saw Demons of the Shadow Realm is actually that's on there as well. So you got lots of stuff, lots of options there for you to watch and to check out. I usually go into my first story, and it is going to be something old, but I wanted to leave you on this thought because of the wedding and all that. I did get into a little bit of the family history, which I'm going to be working on that, but I never knew what my last name meant of Bucurel. I knew it was from Romania, one of those countries above Italy, below Russia. Eastern European, knew where it was on a map, but never knew much else than that. And then going through researching some stuff about family history, I found out the meaning of my last name. And in Romanian, my last name of Bucurel translates out to little joy. So the Matt Man is here to give you a little joy with this first story. Heat wave. Man, we've been full of them this summer. But would you believe that it was a heat wave that made America legalize shorts? Saw this one at the Nat Geo History group on Facebook and thought it was a fun little factoid. Quick first little story to pop in there. But the summer of 1936 brought a devastating heat wave that claimed the lives of more than 11,000 Americans and 1,000 Canadians. As temperatures soared, newspapers in the Twin Cities reported deaths at a rate of 3 per minute, while calls grew for lighter, more practical clothing. But in some cities, wearing shorts could still get you arrested, as many communities still consider them inappropriate in public. So the summer of 36, staggering heat wave made it very uncomfortable to wear long pants and a button-up shirt, vest, overcoat, hat. You're hot already, right? You can see how the fashion trend in America really kind of clicked, and it was out of necessity. It was a need to go through and say, you know what, man, I get that we want to be a bunch of prudes, but we got people dying. Like, we got to lighten up the collar there a little bit. You know what I mean? Take a shirt off, go out in the sun, do something. But, it's one of those things, man. That was the turn of the notch where we can all just kind of pop on a pair of shorts right now and really enjoy that, because a lot of people got hot and some died back in the 30s. So, fun little factoid for you, a little ditty from the past. But let's see what they're doing to ditty in the future. No giggity? Scientist created a gel that can regrow lost tooth enamel. So, researchers at the University of Nottingham and an international team have developed a fluoride-free protein gel that can help regrow damaged tooth enamel. In a laboratory test, the gel works by copying the natural proteins that form tooth enamel during early development. When applied to damaged tooth, it uses calcium and phosphate from saliva to regrow new enamel crystals. These crystals attach to existing enamel, helping repair the tooth's protective outer layer instead of just covering the damage. Unlike traditional fillings, which use artificial materials, this gel aims to repair the tooth by growing new enamel naturally. It could one day help treat early tooth decay, enamel erosion, and tooth sensitivity. However, the treatment is still in the early stage and has only been tested in the laboratory. More research and human clinical trials are needed before it can be used in dental clinics. But how cool is that? From going from in the 90s, as being a kid, you grew up and they were like, hey man, you gotta brush your teeth, because once that enamel goes, bye-bye. Wave bye-bye to it, because it's gone. Now, with science, they're using this gel by copying natural proteins that form tooth enamel during early development. How did it do it in the first place? Well, just do that again. Now science is allowing us to actually have that ability. So that's the thing that's kind of unlocking with science. And who knows, even in the future with AI getting smarter, what kind of stuff is it going to unlock? What kind of things are just future people, even just from now, going to unlock as we talk about in these Mattcasts? Because, you know, this is just a principle kind of thing of, it's not saying don't brush your teeth. You know, even I'm not saying that. You still got to brush your teeth, so you got a nice smile. Otherwise, life is going to suck, especially eating. But, you know, being able to regrow the enamel and help prevent early tooth decay, enamel erosion, tooth sensitivity. These are things that are just commonly plaguing just normal people in your day-to-day life that you haven't even looked at or noticed. So, new technologies, always being able to push that puck forward and advance it. But before we advance too far, why don't we head on back with this next story? Archaeologists discovered a 3,000-year-old coffin that still contained a perfectly preserved green face mask. And I never usually say the sources in the front hand, but this one's coming straight out of Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, which means Mr. Zahi Hawass himself will later say he knew nothing about it. But archaeologists excavated the ancient necropolis of Saqqara, Egypt, uncovering dozens of sealed wooden coffins dating back nearly 3,000 years. Unlike many ancient burials that had been looted over the centuries, these coffins remained untouched, preserving their vivid painted decorations and funeral objects in exceptional condition. One of the most remarkable discoveries was a mummy wearing a brilliantly preserved green funeral mask. In ancient Egyptian belief, the green color symbolized rebirth, fertility, and eternal life, making it an important feature in the funerary art. Alongside the mummy, archaeologists found, we'll try this, Ushapti figures, amulets, painted sarcophagi, and beautifully decorated canopic artifacts, all intended to accompany the deceased to the afterlife. Researchers believe the cemetery belonged to priests, officials, and members of Egypt's elite during the late period of 664 to 332 BC, because many of the burial shafts had remained sealed for more than 2 millennia. The discoveries are providing historians a rare information about the burial customs, religious beliefs, and artistic traditions of ancient Egypt. So that's why this is fascinating, you know, especially when you look at the realm of ancient Egypt, having a new any kind of news story say, hey, we found a new sarcophagi. It's like, yeah, okay. Oh, that's cool. But one, Egyptian elite, because the elites and the priestly class, these are the people who were actually literate. They could speak they could read hieroglyphics, you know, you could read, you could write. It's a very big, powerful tool, especially in ancient cultures like Egypt, because they had customs and things that you don't know unless you can read these hieroglyphs. You know, what did Osiris say? But the cemetery belonging to priests, officials, and other, you know, Egyptian elites, that's very interesting. I mean, even just in that realm of the 664 to 332 BC, you know, the burial shafts and stuff like that, you find that a lot of it's been, raided, because Egypt is the first place people go when they're interested in history. I forget who I heard say that, but it just rings true, because you think you've seen everything, but this vast amount of area that is actually untouched. And even stuff like this, it's just an unsealed tomb. And the information that you can get from this, especially what kind of art did they do? we, had a whole new understanding of Egyptian, life and antiquity just from when we found Tutankhamun's. And that was in the beginning of the, 1900s, dude, That was so long ago that if we keep digging, we will find all this, especially the stuff I love out of there that comes out of the projects where they're trying to find the labyrinth. I mean, Egyptians loved making stuff. Keep digging in the sand. Keep finding those ancient treasures because, a wooden coffin dating back 3,000 years, that is very unlikely, to find something like that. And all this stuff intact. Burial mask, the, symbols and figurines and all the canopic jars of this is all my stuff. I'm taking it all to the afterlife. Let's go. Get in the boat, bitches. The gods are waiting. But the gods will wait for you to check out this next story. Space. Scientists bioprinted a kidney and a liver tissue aboard the International Space Station for the first time. How cool is that? Scientists just printed living human organ tissue in space for the first time. Auxilium Biotechnologies used its AMP-1 bioprinter aboard the International Space Station to grow kidney and liver tissue with designs from the Wake Forest Institute for Regenerative Medicine. The same mission also produced cartilage tissue and 28 nerve repair implants before returning to Earth in June of 2026. In microgravity, cells spread evenly without gravity pulling soft tissue out of shape. This breakthrough could speed up lab-grown organs and shorten the wait time, many patients face for transplants. For families watching someone they love wait on a transplant list, this kind of progress feels deeply personal. Scientists can call it only the beginning of manufacturing human tissue in space. How crazy is that? So without the weight of gravity, we could get some really good 3D printed organs is what I'm picking up from this story. And we just got to have a little human organ factory just floating around space. And that's where kidneys and livers and other organs come from. Yeah, the space station right there. What kind of weird mythology would our, children down the line have if society stopped right now? Like, oh yeah, they were making organs in space and bringing them back down to Earth, and that's how people would get their healing. What kind of weird religions would form on a society that got brought back to, stone level, What kind of weird Anunnaki stuff would be going on there, But bioprinting, a liver and a kidney, these obvious transplant needed things, and being able to make that tissue and cartilage alone, and the nerve ending, repair stuff. Fantastic. That's something that, it seems so science fiction to be able to reprint something and like a new human. But what if the first time they make somebody is out in space? That is like a horror movie waiting to happen. And they're just going to make a belter in the International Space Station. And that just seems like, one of the horror movie writers are just waiting to just get the green light to make that movie now. But, it's one of those things. It's coming. And if you can get a new liver when you need one, or a new kidney, and they just like, boop, and have to send it to a, hospital, I mean, that's not so bad. That's not so bad. A lot like this next story might not be so bad either. A 1,200-year-old Maya wall inscription just revealed the name of history's first known Maya mathematician. The scholar Wax It sounds like a really weird Hollywood tan that you go to, like maybe on like Hollywood Boulevard or like Kensington, if you're an East Coaster. But, suck tan wax. Yeah, sock, S-A-K, tan. I'm saying, T-H-A-N, tan, sure. Sounds right. Wax, W-A-A-X. So, yeah, suck tan wax. God, that really sounds so much dirtier than they intended. But when you translate it, it also says white-chested fox, which sounds, again, so much dirtier than they intended. But it's just a white-chested fox. I just imagine that fox probably has, like, those real thick eyebrows like Eugene Levy. But, maybe they're not talking about him. But he left his name beside one of a kind calculation that connected the Mayan calendar with movements of Venus and Mars. It allowed Maya astronomers to predict when these cycles would line up, helping determine the timing of royal ceremonies, major construction projects, and other important events. Until now, the brilliant minds behind the Mayan civilization's achievements in mathematics and astronomy had remained anonymous. This is the first time a specific scientific discovery from the classic Maya period has been linked to a real person, finally giving one of history's greatest Mayan scholars a name. So right next to a one-of-a-kind calculation, this is my name. Very simple premise that, you can find around the world, no matter how you write, in what pattern. You could write diagonally from up to down for all I give a shit. People will be able to say, oh, they said this, and that's their name. Now we can tie it back to Mr. Sucktan Wax, the white-chested fox. It sounds like a porno movie. Sucktan Wax, the white-chested fox. Jesus. God. The internet has corrupted my soul so much. Let's go to the next story. By 2027, a luxury space hotel is set to welcome guests with an estimated cost of $5 million per stay. You knew this had to be coming. A luxury space hotel could one day welcome guests in orbit for around $5 million per stay. Still cheaper than a Disney hotel. One of the most ambitious concepts in space tourism is Voyage Station, a proposed commercial space hotel designed to orbit Earth, developed by Above Space, formerly Orbital Assembly Corporation. The station is envisioned as a rotating wheel that would generate artificial gravity, allowing guests to experience a more Earth-like environment while living in space. The company has proposed opening the facility as early as 2027, although the project has not yet begun construction, and its timeline remains highly uncertain, so I wouldn't hold my breath, pun intended. According to the company's plans, a short stay could initially cost around $5 million per person. The station is expected to feature luxury suites, restaurants, recreational areas, research facilities, and accommodations for hundreds of guests and crew. Artificial gravity created by the station's rotation would make everyday activities such as eating, sleeping, and walking much easier than in traditional zero-gravity spacecraft. While the concept has captured the imagination of space enthusiasts around the world, many aerospace experts believe the proposed schedule is extremely ambitious. Building and operating a large rotating space station would require technological capabilities and launch infrastructure that have yet to be demonstrated at this scale. As a result, the project's timeline should be viewed as a goal rather than a confirmed launch date. Yeah, I don't think they're going to do this in a year. You know what I mean? They're making a new Ghost Rider. I could see them doing that in a year and putting that out by 2028. You know what I mean? Especially if you're going to lean in and generative AI instead of actual people, Marvel. I mean, yeah, you should be able to turn out a project that quickly after announcing. I don't know about putting a whole luxury space hotel up there in one, in the atmosphere there. I don't know about that. I mean, you're talking about like a whole hotel that Disney can't even fill in Florida. Goodbye, Star Wars. But act with that to where you can eat, sleep, do research, whatever you want. We're gonna have restaurants. You can have little, like tourist gift shops with, I went to space and all I got was this shitty T-shirt. You're going to have all that stuff. Like, God, that just sounds like a marketing nightmare, because all you would need is just one bad shuttle return and that whole hotel will burn up in the atmosphere. But if it worked for at least a couple months, you'd have a story to tell. But then, you find out, oh, this is just mashed up rice in a tube, and they're calling it, this is my space food. Then they give you that freeze dried shit they tried to pull off as space food back in the 90s. I don't know about this one, man. It's it looks like the idea is already burning up in our atmosphere, but we'll keep our eye out on that one and see if the space hotel will actually happen. But why don't we focus on a different wheel? Archaeologists discover the world's oldest wooden wheel still intact. Dating approximately 5100 to 5350 years ago, during the Copper Age, this remarkable wooden wheel was discovered in the Ljubljana marshes of Slovenia. It is recognized as the oldest fully intact wooden wheel ever found in the archaeological record. Crafted from ash and oak, the wheel represented a monumental leap in early transportation technologies and woodworking precision. Its sophisticated construction featured two panels joined by a dowel system, highlights an advanced grasp on mechanics long before the advent of modern engineering. The ancient artifact reshapes our understanding of prehistoric mobility, trade, and agriculture expansion across Europe. It proves that technologically innovative and driven by the practical need of early communities striving to transport goods and connect distant settlements. So the wheel is at least 5,000 years old, and while there wasn't technically like a lug nut, there was some kind of like linchpin lug, pin, wooden dowel to stop the actual wheel from falling off. So there, still, for 5,000 years, nothing rolls without lug something, some kind of lug. We'll call it a wooden lug stud. Yeah. Lug studs. Next podcast coming. But ancient wheels, man. The wheels keep turning, just like the wheels keep turning on this podcast. But we're going to look for a little sugar, a little sweetness in this next story. Astronomers detect sugar in interstellar space for the first time. Astronomers have detected natural sugar found in raspberries in clouds of interstellar dust and gas near the center of the Milky Way galaxy. The sweet discovery shows that for the first time that compounds that are key to life can form in the vast expanse between stars and fuel optimism that other molecules important for the origins of life might be found in space. And I think not too long ago, we had the story where they talked. It was out there that they found the key 5 building blocks of DNA and RNA in an asteroid. So I think in this just shows in the massive probability of life that anything's possible. You're finding sugar. They found one galaxy that was alcohol and one that smelled of rotten eggs. there's a whole bunch of different things that we can see out there if you look. So when you look and you take the time to research into it, there's a lot of amazing things out there in the galaxy, like the amazingness of this next story. The first U.S. cities are officially completely out of water. Major U.S. city could soon become the first in the country to completely run out of water. Corpus Christi, Texas, which supplies drinking water to more than 500,000 people, is facing an unprecedented crisis after 5 years of a drought left its reservoirs nearly empty. City officials say water use may have to be cut by 25%, or nearly 16 million gallons a day as early as September. The drought is more than a lack of rain. As soil dries out and more rainfall it absorbed before it can reach rivers and reservoirs. Hotter temperatures also increase evaporation from lakes and reservoirs, while plants release more water into the atmosphere through transpiration. Together, these processes reduce the amount of water available for cities, even when occasional storms occur. Climate scientists warn that that long-lasting droughts can also deplete groundwater. Many aquifers recharge slowly, sometimes over decades or centuries, meaning they cannot always replace the water being pumped out fast enough. Once reservoirs and groundwater supplies both decline, communities have far few options to meet demand. Corpus Christi is also home to a major chemical plant, oil factories, plastic manufacturers, all of which rely on large volume water alongside homes, schools, hospitals. Scientists say that the city may be in early warning of what can happen to prolonged drought, rising temperatures, growing populations, and increased water demand collide. Experts stress that this is not just in Texas problem. As climate warms, droughts are becoming longer and more intense in many parts of the United States, increasing the risk that more communities could face severe water shortages unless water supplies are managed more sustainably. So whether it's collecting the rainwater everywhere and being able to pump into like a community cistern of some sorts to make sure that the water gets where we need it to go, I don't know. Maybe there's more of a geological answer that needs to be put in place here, because there's a huge problem when you pump out all the groundwater. You know what I mean? There's a huge problem in Mexico City right now because they're using too much water and the city's sinking. So when you don't accurately use the resources around you and you overuse your environment, it will, in the long term, create stress where there was none before. So we'll have to see how this turns out, if we are able as a society to look at this problem and see a solution, rather than just evacuating a whole city and then giving the creators of The Walking Dead a perfect stage show. You know, perfect stage for their show. You know, I mean, it's but we're Walking Dead, the live game, and then you just go in there and you just no, that would turn into Escape from New York. So we'll see what other people think of this last story. Sharks near a remote Bahamas island tested positive for cocaine and caffeine painkillers. Oh, Jesus. That's a horrible combination. So I love to leave you on a fun one, but researchers took blood from 85 sharks of 5 species around Ethuria Island, a place often called pristine, and found that 28 of them carried at least one human drug. Caffeine was the most common, followed by painkillers, acetaminophen, dalosophenec, and 2 sharks tested positive for cocaine. A likely route is wastewater and tourism and development seeping into coastal waters. Contaminated sharks also showed shifted metabolic marks through long-term effects, remaining unknown. So we don't know what the long-term effect is of sharks doing cocaine and painkillers, but I don't think I need to be really, savvy in sharks to tell you that that's probably not good for the sharks to be, hopped up on cocaine, caffeine, and painkillers. I mean, there's other things we can pump into the water that would be more beneficial to them, nutritious. I kind of think you need to check. You need to check your waters there all the waters there around where sharks and all that land. But what are we putting in the water there? If these sharks are testing positive for cocaine. This is a shark in a body of water. That's a lot of cocaine. You know what I mean? That's so much. And even if it's like wastewater, we don't do the cocaine, we flush it down the toilet. Those sharks are going to be all amped up. Like, let's go! Oh my God. And the painkillers, you kick them in the nose and they're not going to feel anything. Like, nah, I'm going to get you. Like, God, that is like a B-movie gold right there. Millions of dollars right there on cocaine sharks. So we'll have to see how that one ends. That's the feel-good story to end off this podcast because we went through a lot of them today, highlighted some people in the beginning, told you about some shows, talked about some really cool news. So I'd like to end off this podcast the same damn way every time, and that's that we love you, we miss you, and we can't wait to see you next time, gang. Until then, drive on and game on, gearheads. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Got another Mattcast, brother. Pull out the old Randy Savage, but one thing I do want you to pull on, giggity, is that subscribe button. Hit that like button and comment below. So make sure everybody sees and can hear and enjoy the same Mattcast. Right above my shoulder, that's going to be the very best Perjangers and Wallhangers video for you. And right above my other shoulder is going to be every single Mattcast in a playlist so you can consume them all. And of course, game on and drive on, boys and girls. Bye-bye.
Bye.